good day, or depending on what time zone you are, or even good morning. It's nice to have you here all. Welcome to the Ask Me Everything with me. Yeah, I'll present you my CISSP Odyssey, how I prepared for it, what materials I used, what I encountered while learning, and some tips about the exam I want to share with you. And in the end, you can ask me about everything. The exam, materials, or anything about the CISSP, or anything other related to technology. Susie, did you upload the PDF or Dark Helmet?
Yes, it is pinned in the stage chat channel.
Perfect. So I've created some slides some minutes before. I've learned that you can't share your slides in the stage, so I've kind of tweaked it to be more of a documentation than some presentation slides, but yeah, I hope that will be fine. So yeah, about me. I've worked as a software engineer in the embedded backend and cloud area, switched to project management, where I've led software development projects and innovation projects. And because IT security is more something I really like, I found about the CISSP and got deeper into it, and I thought information security is way more cooler than just sitting there doing some operational stuff. And yeah, so that's the reason I've did the CISSP and also changed to become an information security consultant, where I'm securing services and ensure that the companies are compliant regarding PCI DSS, GDPR, other laws and regulatory stuff. So yeah, the beginning, the exposition. Your journey will probably look like this. You have a learn phase where you use your resources. After you go over the validation and check if you understood the material, and often you will jump back to the material and learn again and go deeper into the topic. At some point in the validate phase, you will have the confidence where you go into the exam with a good stomach feeling. So how did I plan it? Before planning, I collected all resources and materials I wanted to use to learn for the CISSP. For the planning, I set myself a deadline to write the exam in March. To do this, I calculated backwards what has to be done and defined milestones. Since I just guessed how much it would take, I also calculated some buffers to be on the safe side. I think it's very important to mention that besides time management, you should also manage your mental energy. This is quite an important topic, since you will not only learn for the CISSP. You probably work or study, which means that besides the time you have spent for that, you also use mental energy on those tasks. So plan accordingly. For the learning, you should decide what you will use as your main resource. There is so much material out there that you have to prioritize. Besides the main resource, you will also going to need supplements to get deeper into the topic. This might be because the book doesn't cover something, or you just don't understand what the author is trying to teach you. When you're validating your knowledge, before we talk about the knowledge validation, there is one very important thing. A good score does not mean automatically that you will do well in the exam, and does not gog your exam readiness. So don't take good scores as an indicator. When you validate, you should use some variety to have some different types of questions and also cover more topics. There will be overlap, but you will mostly encounter new questions that might get you crazy, depending on the author of those questions. In the test phase, before you take the test, I enjoy. I can only tell you that you should plan to rest and enjoy life. You should be relaxed since those 3 hours will be demanding and you want to have a fresh mind. For example, I took 2 days off before the exam, read nothing about the CISSP and just enjoyed the day and the sun. You should also get into the CISSP mind. You have a certain role as a CISSP, and from that perspective, you will have to answer those questions. To give you some hint here, you mostly care about processes and not deep technical configurations. This does not mean that you will get direct, deep technical questions, but you shouldn't have. But you should have a good and deep understanding. But keep in mind what the CISSP is really doing in the end in the company. As my main resource, I use the official study guide and the self-paced course by ISC². What I did was I played those videos of a chapter in the beginning, so I can get some first impression of the topic and went to the OSG later. If you use the self-paced course, I really can recommend the 1.5 speed, since you will save up to 10 hours. I also had some supplements, so I used the all-in-one, the IO and the CBK, the Common Body of Knowledge. The CBK was more of a single point of truth book for me, because you will have contradicting information. This will get very frustrating. And I really can recommend this, because there are different information in OSG and IO. And in the end, the CBK is the only true thing. Yeah, miscanthulous. I also used Adam's notes. You can find them in the classroom. They're pinned there. I used them to check if I forgot something or did not have in my summary. I also read some NIST documentations to get deeper, to get some deeper understanding of some topics like risk management framework and so on. I also used the 11th hour. I guess this could also be still read even though the exam got updated. And what I really can recommend is the book How to Think Like a Manager, to read it in the end, because with that you can get better into this mindset of the CISSP. Yeah. Even though I'm I myself I'm a techie, so when you have some questions, you have some process. You have the answer of a process of something deep technical and something else, and I'm still in my heart a techie. So sometimes I want to just fix the problem, but it's not really the problem. It's just a symptom. So yeah, keep in mind. What I did encounter in my adventures, the issues I came across was energy management. This is some tricky topic because there were days where I just couldn't focus. I needed a day-long break. I kind of fine-tuned it in the end, but to do this you will need to know yourself and when to do what. I have no blueprint for you, so that it can be used universally, so it's something you really have to know. It's something where you have to really know yourself. I also had some topics I couldn't understand, but yeah, the CISSP channel here is very helpful. The community is very helpful, and I really can recommend to participate, since this is how you will get the most out of it. Another thing I also encountered was the issue of combining the knowledge you gain from the OSG and the IO and map it with NIST publications. The OSG references partially knowledge to the NIST, but having some mapping with the processes and so on is quite hard. So I really recommend reading the articles Lost in Code wrote. And at that point, I'd like to thank him for taking time and explaining me the mapping. So yeah. So one thing I really can recommend is going through the channels and participate with the people. You will gain so much valuable knowledge. It's just, yeah, just do it. I also recommend reading the articles from After Hours. And yeah, as I said, participate in the CISSP channel. People will discuss about questions, topics, and much more. It can get quite funny, so no worries, you will have a good time while also learning for the CISSP. Besides that, you could also find new friends since everybody in this community has the same passion, security. How I tested my knowledge in the end? Well, you will, when you use the OSG, you will also have normally this practice test book. Those are quite easy questions to just gauge if you understood at least the knowledge that is transferred via the OSG. There is also the CISSP practice exams. You can find those in the all-in-one. They are also quite tricky, but I like them. I used also Boson, and I also participated when people posted questions in the CISSP channel. What I also used was the question of the day by Adam Gordon and Vensu. Adam Gordon, you can find his question of the day on Twitter, and Vensu has a website, and he's posting, I think, daily a new question. They're quite hard. So don't feel discouraged if you can't answer a single question. But I think it's quite good to get into the thinking process, how he structured the question, how you get to the answer. I think it's something quite important. So Vensu questions, I did them in the end mostly. I liked them very much because, as I said, they're quite tricky. He's combining different topics together. It's perfect. In the end, well, moments before the exam, I watched Why You Will Pass the CISSP by Kelly. She again helps you to get into the CISSP mindset, and this is quite important to get into this mindset since you're on the advisory role and not in the doing part. Except the question directly asks for it, then you have to answer that. What I also recommend is eliminating stress sources, like plan accordingly to get early to the test center. You don't want to have like 3 minutes before the exam starts. So try to eliminate every possible stress source you can have. Another thing I can recommend is to schedule the exam early. Your body temperature usually fluctuates half a Celsius during the day, with the lowest levels around 4 or 5 a.m. Your mind, contrary to your body, works best when it's cooler. Your body temperature starts dropping from around 6:30 to 7 p.m. and continues to do so until it hits the base at around 4:30 a.m. Then it starts rising again, signaling that it's time to wake up. So as I said, schedule early. It's where you can think best. Another thing is relax and breathe. I think even though the people also pass the CISSP, arriving at the test center, it feels like the heart is exploding. You're in this fight or escape mode. It's just relax, breathe, and get to the center. When you're sitting in the exam, I can recommend to use your time you get for the NDA signing to kind of take a breath, relax, and write down keywords like think endgame. You will know what I mean when you watch the why you will pass the CISSP. You will also encounter tricky questions in the exam. What I also can say here is take your moment, make an educated guess and move on, because it does not make sense to waste precious time on thinking if you answered the question correctly or not. And don't forget time management. You have to think about the exam that it's 150 questions long, not 100 questions, 150 questions. You have 3 hours for the exam, which means that with an average answer rate, you will have 1.2 minutes per question. So plan accordingly. And this is the end. I kind of rushed it, so I hope that you still were able to follow me. There is also the, I've created some slides. You can also download them here in this stage if you want to revisit the stuff I presented. So yeah, do you have any questions?
Oh, that was really, really good. Thank you so much for your time doing this today. There's a few questions that have been put into the Stage Chit Chat channel. Is that right if we start going through those now?
Sure. Can I also kind of see the chat, or can you only see that?
You should be able to click and change channel, and you can probably read the question from there as well, if that helps.
Oh, okay.
So
then let's start.
Yeah. So the first one, Colvin has posted saying, everyone's journey is different. Most people would want to know how long you took to prepare from the start. What advice would you give to people who are starting on the journey and trying to juggle work and family life?
So I've planned 3 months. I also had the issue, well, not issue, I also had to write my thesis. It's, well, you need to keep everything, okay. So you need to think about what you want to do and what work has to be done. Before you start with the CISSP, you want to collect all the resources you want to use, so you can plan accordingly how much time you will probably need to either finish at a date you have set, or when you say, okay, you can't really plan that you do it in 6 months or so, that you at least can say, okay, for each day or for each week, you will go through 20, 30 pages. How I managed my time was, I have a whiteboard where I've firstly collected everything I had to do for work, so I can kind of manage my workload there, and also can see if there are tasks that are quite, let's say, that consume very much mental energy, that you maybe could kind of distribute it to different days, so you have some kind of average use of energy. I know it's said kind of stupidly, and yeah, and think about, yeah.
No, that's really good. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
And yeah, with the family, still you want to do this in your free time, so it's kind of something you have. I think it's kind of individual, because for me, I've worked 8 hours and used 4 hours afterwards for the CISSP learning. And in the weekend, I also kind of used the 12 hours. But it's not the this is not some solution that everybody can use, because you have responsibilities. Maybe you have a child, so you need to know what you have to do. Maybe also plan some free time, and this is the tricky part, I guess, because you need to know yourself good enough to know that, let's say, 2 hours per day or so are enough for you. So this is something you have to find out yourself. I mean, what you could do is you can create some kind of plan and see if it works. So you create some temporary plan. Let's say you go through 50 or 100 pages, let's say 100 pages per week. And you can see if this is the style you can work with, or maybe you see you need more time for family and friends, or even you can see that you could do even more. So this is some fine-tuning. So in the end, what I did was I also took 2 weeks off, where I also used those 12 days per day to learn for the CISSP, and took some days off in January to relax, breathe, and also have some time with friends and family. So you need to know what has to be done, so the normal duties you have in work and in your private life, and then also kinda plan the resting phase. But this is the tricky part, where, as I said, you need to know yourself, and you can experiment. This is what I can recommend here, and see, does the plan, how you've set it, work or not, and then can adjust the plan accordingly.
No, that's great. I think there's a really great point that you mentioned earlier regarding mental energy management, because this certification is definitely draining and requires some clever management to know your mental limits, just to ensure that your learning is as effective as possible.
Correct.
Next question we've got is from AM, and it's saying, what did you do the day before the exam?
Well, the last 2 days I did nothing. I think I've also been here in the Discord chat a bit. I think maybe answered some questions, but everybody was like, "Come on, get off of here, enjoy life, enjoy sun," and yeah, but mostly relaxing.
Excellent. Yeah, it's always good just to unwind before you take on the beast. Next question from Colvin is, what other certifications are you planning now? Now that you have all this information in your mind and it's fresh, what's your next step?
So my next step is to kind of get, because the CISSP also enables you to add some plugins. For example, TOGAF, COBIT, ISO 27000 series, and I started with the OSCP. I had some personal problems where this might be the case anymore, that I could further pursue the OSCP. So what I'm also planning is the CCSP, because cloud, let's be honest, is the future. It's very it has a lot of financial benefits. And most companies will at some point have to move to the cloud, and yeah, because with the power of cloud, even small companies can scale quite large. For example, Netflix is quite a small company, but the internet traffic it accounts is like, I'm not sure if I remember correctly, 19% of the internet traffic is generated only with Netflix. This is quite heavy stuff, so cloud will play a major role in the future. What I'm also planning is the ISO 27000, yeah. And I also want to go to learn for the TOGAF. Yeah, that's my plan.
Oh, brilliant. That sounds good. Yeah, cloud is very, very popular on here that we've seen. We're very fortunate we've got multiple different professors supporting a lot of cloud workshops. I think Gwen's even written a book, I've heard. But no, excellent stuff. Moving on to the next
what
question.
I can...
Sorry, yeah.
But, yeah, I think I should also add something here. That because some people ask me, should I learn Azure or AWS or maybe I don't know how the Google Cloud is named. I think Google Cloud. Normally, the stuff you will learn, for example, for Azure applies also to AWS, but there are only the small details that changed. So the overall idea is the same. So it's better to have a broad and abstract understanding of the topic, and then you can just adapt your knowledge to it. And if you have to go deeper, you can just read the documentation. That's not hard. But I also can recommend, when using the cloud, read the quotas and read the small details, because those can break you the neck. I can partially tell about this. So there was a cloud project I've been in and developed some cloud native solution. Yeah, for example, the IoT hub is something. Sorry, not the IoT hub. The Azure function. It's something where you develop the application. You throw it to the server and everything works fine. You only have to care about your application you're developing and the configuration. And the hosting and everything is done by the provider. And the scaling for different license types are working differently. For example, while there's in Azure the consumption plan that scales perfectly fine, there is the premium plan where they have some, let's say, magic in the background, and it kinda does not scale as fast as the consumption plan. So we had to a lot of calls with Microsoft there, and gladly they fixed it. But yeah, so you should also pay attention to the details in the cloud environment. But yeah,
that's great. Awesome, thank you. And just another question for Colvin, actually, we got here is: did you work with a dedicated study buddy or study partner?
I did not. No, I've
right.
set the plan myself, and I'm.
That's all right. Lone wolf, it can be done.
Wait, yeah, wait a second. Yeah. And I've had discussions, so not really a learning buddy, but I've had discussions about different topics with different people. So I wouldn't say really a learned buddy, but a supportive community. So as I mentioned in the presentation, participate in this community, because you will get the most out of it when participating.
Brilliant, excellent, thank you. Next question's from Simo110. If there is one piece of advice you can give to someone testing in a couple of days from now, what would that be?
Yeah, breathe and relax. You don't think about the different things like, oh no, I don't know this topic deep enough, or I don't know this topic deep enough. You have the skills, you have the knowledge. Breathe, and I can also only tell you, when you're in the exam, that you will be able to answer them. So you should not worry about failing. You should thinking about, how can I answer this question the best I can. I know it's quite easy to say, to just relax and breathe, but it's something I only can encourage.
Definitely. Yeah, I'd also just say it's not the end of the world. Failing this exam, you can always retake it, and lots of people do retake this and they do not pass first time.
Exactly. I've also checked IC² does not provide numbers how many people are failing the exam. There is no shame to say that you did not pass the CISSP. It's an it has a very broad knowledge. It's testing, and it can have some very deep technical questions too. So it goes to the broad and into the depth, and you can't know everything. And at some point, I don't want to say you have luck or bad luck. It's just maybe it was not your day, and it's not the end of the world. As you said, it's just breathe. You know which domains were not the strongest ones, and go deeper into it. Participate with the community and try again. You only fail if you just say, okay, I'm gonna give up and don't pursue the CISSP anymore. This is failing, but when you do not pass the exam or the CAT, this is not a fail. It's you learned something. You progressed. You know now how the exam, how the let's say the exam feels, how the questions are, and yeah. You have now more knowledge than people who tried the first time, because you know how the question types will be.
Excellent.
Yeah.
No, thanks very much. Next question we've got is, sorry for my pronunciation, is it Sahailed24? How did you work on your elimination strategy, and how did you narrow down to the best correct answer?
There will be for me there was always this one answer that was obviously wrong. I mean, you can have a question where you have no idea what they wanna what type of question this is, what they wanna ask, because the question is so short and the answers are only one word. So at some point you will think, what is going on here? At some point it's just gut feeling. Yeah, and in the other, so mostly you will mix your gut feeling with your knowledge. So when you go through the questions, what I can recommend is when you read the question, after you read the question, you go through the answer, through the different answers, and read the question again, and then try to use the knowledge you have and see if the answer that is given matches with what you know. For example, I can't give an example. Let's keep it more abstract. You eliminate by knowing, okay, you know, for example, X, Y, Z, and this does not fit with this answer, so you can eliminate it. Or you say, okay, this might be a possible solution, but let's see if there is some answer that does fit better to the problem that is asked. So it's kinda eliminating because you instantly see that it's wrong. This is the one thing. The second thing is that you kinda prioritize, which could where you say, okay, this can be the correct answer, this also, and then you prioritize which would be the better fitting solution. And this is where also your knowledge and your gut feeling comes in. This is how I did it, at least. I mean, sure, there will be questions where you think, okay, what the heck? You can't really eliminate, you have no idea what the question is asking for. Yeah. You just read the answers and say, okay, just click that and go on.
Definitely. I've felt the same experience where you really do have to trust your gut feeling on some of those questions, especially when it's a beta question, which completely can throw your nerves a little bit, make you feel a bit uncomfortable. But yeah, especially the questions that I remember seeing, they're going to not be on a single domain. You're going to see multiple domains chucked into one question. It's really key to be patient and reread the question just to understand what is being asked there, and then trying to start eliminating.
Yeah, and this is also the thing, because that's a good point. What you said, that it's combining different topics. Don't think of domains when you read, because what I saw in the past, that people say, okay, question, this is the question, which domain will it fit best? Forget about the domains. You have to see the big picture. So the thing is that those domains only exist to kind of give you some structure, to show you where some different topics, let's say, could be mixed together or grouped together. But in the end, it's all connected, because let's say domain 1, risk management, you will have it everywhere in every domain, because you always have to do risk management, and they kind of incorporate together, since you will have a process, and this will have some kind of reason because some technical stuff, and this also has some reasons because you did your risk management, and this goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So think about that your knowledge is interconnected, and don't keep a wall between your knowledge with, let's say, okay, this is domain 1, this is domain 2, that's it, those are separate things. They do not connect together, or maybe at some point when you've read it. So only every time when you read something, try to connect it with the knowledge you already have. What I also can recommend is, when you read something, for example, business continuity management, if you've never done it, it's kind of theoretical. And what I really can recommend is, think about how would you implement this in your company, because this will set you into the person that has to do it. So you have to apply the knowledge you have and go deeper into it, and you see how the dots connect together, because you see, okay, you have in the business continuity management here that you have to do some certain processes. You see, okay, you have to rebuild your network, you have to do this and that. Yeah. This is something very important. Do not think in domains.
That's great.
See, you have to see the whole picture.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. Next question we've got is from Uncle F. Does it make sense trying a practice exam first and then targeting areas to focus on, or should one go through the official study guide at least once before practicing tests?
I really discourage people doing the test and focus on the domains they were weak on before even starting learning the stuff, because even though you had let's say a good pass rate, does not mean even though you had a good score in this test, does not mean that you really have the complete picture of it. For example, the OSG, those questions are not do not nearly even reach the real exam questions. So you really want to get everything you can get to slay the CISSP monster exam. So use your energy to learn everything you can, and yeah, I really discourage people to test their, let's say, it's not that it's non-existing, but it's not as, let's say, deep and bright than people who really read the books. Really start reading the books, and you see also you can also learn things you didn't knew and were not asked in this exam. So yeah, it's I really don't like it to. I know that a lot of people do this, also not in this at the CISSP, but also, for example, in school and university and so on. But I really don't like the strategy, because it does not really guarantee you that you know the stuff. You only know what was asked, but what is beyond of it when you are really in the exam. And let's say there is this one page you didn't read. You could easily have remembered it, but you didn't read it. you're now in the exam, and they ask you about it. I know it's kind of super abstract, but I think you get the point here.
Yeah, definitely. It's mile wide, inch deep, as Adam says, this material.
Yeah.
And I think your end of chapter questions, or even if you do a test, you're only going to do 100 questions possibly. You're not even going to scratch the surface of the whole content of
Correctly.
Of what's actually being asked on. So yeah, I completely agree with your assessment on that one. Next question's from Susie, our Modzilla. There is always a discussion about getting X score on practice tests to validate readiness. For example, getting 80% or higher in boson. Did you follow this strategy while studying?
No. So you will read it mostly in Reddit. I think this is some, let's say, Reddit mythm. I think, because I only read this in Reddit, but not there were Facebook groups or so, but they also only always reference to those Reddit posts, so it's quite strange. As I mentioned, that even though you have high scores in those tests, does not mean that you are ready for the exam. For example, when you do the boson question, I mean, when you do them 1 time, 2 times, and let's say you're always in the middle of the field with a lot of points and none, you will remember those questions and you will know the answers. So I have also read that people do 9,000 questions back and forth and think they are now ready for the exam. This is not true, because they know they did so many questions and they repeated so many times those questions that they already know the answer, and this is the reason why they score better. It does not mean that they have a broader and deeper understanding of the topic. It only means that they remember the answer that they checked when they answered the question not correctly. It's quite funny to see, but I followed my gut feeling, and also when participating in the community and answering questions about certain topics, you will see and also feel that you have a confidence to explain the topic, and if you can really explain the topic, you are ready for the exam. So it's it does not mean that those test engines and so on are useless. They help you find blind spots, but they do not show that you're ready for the exam. I say when you are ready, when you can explain me the topic like I'm an 8-year-old child, then you're ready for the exam. Because when you explain me those different topics in different perspectives, you know the topic well enough to go into the exam and see the connections of the different topics.
Brilliant. No, I completely agree with that. Just a question from myself. Did you use any flashcards or any sort of memory tactics to remember certain processes? I remember there's certain content, things like fire extinguisher types, that you just need to memorize for the exam. Did you do anything like that?
No, I didn't do that. I've wrote everything down on my. So I've created my own summary, and oh man, okay, I have to Google this. I only know this word in German. So I think. Okay, I don't think that it's called Donkey Bridge. Thank you, Google. So that you have, that you use, for example, the first letters to create some, some story. For example, you have fire class A. This is ash. Fire class B is for bubble. C is current, and so on. And ash means everything like wood, paper, and so on. I think it's better to have some, instead of using flashcards, try to
Like a mnemonic.
add. Yeah, I can't even
That's
speak
alright.
that word. Oh Lord. And also, if possible, add emotions, because if you have some emotional bridge to that, you can really remember this perfectly. For example, the wall height. I mean, when you read that in the OSG, you were like, okay, do I really need to know those 3 different types of wall height and what types of persons it will stop entering the area? And for example, I myself made a joke about it, and because of this joke, I was able to remember that. So, yeah, try to create some mnemonics,
That's
and if possible, get some emotional bridge to it, or only have some emotional bridge to it, because you made a stupid joke about it, or you even read a stupid joke about it in the community, and and can remember that perfectly. So yeah, it's really easy. It's really best if you have some emotional connection to it. It's not always possible, but yeah.
No, that's great. Thank you. If there's any more questions, feel free to put them into the Stage Chit Chat channel. Nope, can't see anyone type it. Anything else from Colvin, Susie, or ZO? Who are also assisting the moderation? No. Okay, brilliant.
Well, the people are here. I really can recommend you to ask us questions. I mean, we are here multiple people who passed the CISSP. So now is the time where you can ask us questions. Even though you think they're stupid, just ask them.
Yeah, I think
It's better to know the answer than going without knowledge somewhere.
definitely.
Yeah, you think?
There's no such thing as a silly question. Definitely not in this community that I've seen
Yes.
anyway. It's definitely best just to put your hand up, learn the lesson now, know your weak areas, learn them, and be ready. I think Colvin did unmute his mic, so I'm just going to open up to see if he's got anything to say.
Just going to say, thank you for your time. Really, your account of your journey is very helpful. And I was, as you were explaining your journey, I was reflecting on my own journey. So there were lots of similarities and lots of good points. So good luck to everybody who's going on the CISSP journey. It's definitely doable. I think some of the points that really hit home with me were, being dedicated and having that mindset. Armstrong mentioned it earlier. Those for me are the strongest points, really. The studying will come. You have to have that commitment. If you don't prepare, you're going to prepare to fail. That's a bit of a cliche, but that's true. I'm surprised you did it without a study buddy, but everybody's learning is different. Everybody learns at different paces. My advice to people would be not to look at what other people are doing, but create your own plan and take bits that work for you and create and go and create your own plan rather than trying to copy somebody else's. But do take the lessons learned, because there's been some very good advice being given today. So thank you very much for your time. It's better.
Sure. But the good, you've mentioned some good point with commitment. How did you commit, or how were you able to stay committed to learning for the CISSP?
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult. So I started the journey with a different certification, only because I thought that the CISSP was going to be too difficult. And for me, it was a challenge, and I knew that I had to have that commitment, because I was already working in the as an information security professional, but obviously I had no credence. I didn't have the gold standard certification that everybody talks about, so I knew I had to get that. And you know, I guess because of COVID, I was able to commit some time. But for me, the only way I was able to do it really was to wake up, you know, 5:30 in the morning. You know, you mentioned, you know, getting up very early, and that for me really worked. So, you know, trying to cram in enough study time in the morning, but then also during the day at work, you know, just regurgitating some of that stuff that you've learned and unleashing it onto your colleagues and other people at work. You know, sometimes you might have a meeting about, and it involves security with an external person or somebody else within your team. You can then sort of baffle them with stuff that you've learned. And I think when you talk about, and as you say, when you're able to explain the domain or the topic to somebody else, that's when you know you're ready. But I think the other way you know you're ready is when you wake up thinking about CISSP, and then you start relating everything you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, you see something, or you see a type of scenario, and then immediately you work. You know, you try and revolve it around CISSP. But yeah, going back to your original question, I think having that mindset, to have that commitment. So for me, it was a very specific goal because I know I needed it in order to, you know, find a new role in cyber and to start looking. And it has. I'm not going to lie. I mean, the certification has been invaluable to me, but I think that I'm forgetting things though, day by day. You know, if you're not you know, it's the topics are quite vast.
Yes.
And you know, my role at the moment is more about risk and governance. So whilst I've been focusing on that, the technical side has been kind of been wasting away. But my background, like yours, is technical. I mean, you know, my career was built up around network switches and routers. So, you know, coming from that technical background helped, especially in some of the domains that people find really, really tricky. But, you know, if you're not practicing all of those areas, then it becomes very difficult. But staying on certification station and, you know, being involved, doing your CPEs, talking about different challenges at work, asking questions that you might need help with, you know, that really helps your career. So I think the CISSP is just a stepping stone into the world of information security, and studies should be lifelong, really. You know, people complain that the CPEs are annoying because, you know, that's what you have to do, and that's the reason that they're there, is to keep your knowledge fresh, keep yourself up to date. You know, so yeah, I don't know, I'm just waffling on now, sorry.
No, I absolutely agree. Also with the CPE, I mean, sure, you have 120 CPE per 3 years. And I mean, I know that I also forget some stuff I learned for the CISSP. Sure, there are some, for example, physical security. I'm not doing anything in that area. And sure, there is this design by security and so on, but I forgot a lot about it because it's like speaking a language. When you're practicing the language, you will stay fluently in that language. But if you do not practice the language and speak and write and read, you will forget the language. It's the same with the CISSP, and it's the same with other things you learn in life, that you just forget it because it's not an information you need or have still in mind and processed every day. So I really agree that this continuous learning, this lifelong learning, is quite important. And yeah.
Oh, that's great.
I have one question to Susie. How did you What kind
Okay.
of problems did you encounter in your CISSP journey?
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good question. Um, well, the first issue that I encountered was that I read cover to cover the official study guide, of thousand pages. Then I realized that I didn't understand anything that I read. So that was basically my first issue. And the advice that I give people when they start studying is um, to check the exam outline, to at least start with a short training course. There are tons of from Cybery, LinkedIn Learning. You have at least a high level view of the entire content. So my issue was that I started reading the whole book without really understanding why I was reading that. Then to I had to read the book again, but with a different mindset when I realized, okay, now I know why I have to understand and have knowledge about physical security, about cryptography, and all the other topics. So my advice to anyone that is starting in this journey is to start with something like 11-hour CISSP for dummies. There are a lot of references, and then go to the big official study guide. And also one recommendation, I always get private messages from people asking, oh, can I join a study group? And my advice to all that people is to be active in this server. This is a huge study group. We have around 20,000 members. So be active, don't be shy, ask questions, and as many of you already said, the best way to really know, to realize if you understand something is to explain that topic to others. So that's a better way than just getting a score doing boson or any other test bank that is around there. So be active, don't be a lurker, please. That would be more helpful than than just reading, and because that having that interaction with other people, that will really be extremely helpful for you.
Brilliant.
Thanks.
Just one point I thought was really good that you did mention during your presentation earlier was how you referred to it as being an adventure of the whole study journey. And it's probably really key for those people that are studying CISSP right now. It's really important that they sort of see it like this, because adventures are full of ups and downs, and you really just need that individual challenge to get the job done. There are going to be days where you have really tough time studying some knowledge gaps, but then you're going to have really good days where you fly through the material. But just go with it, trust me, go with it. Everyone goes through that. Stick with it, study hard, test easy.
What I also can recommend is it's sometimes hard to visualize the progress you're making, and I think it's also something that also can kind of boost your intrinsic motivation. For example, what I did was I've had some poker card as a mark where I know where I stopped reading, and it's kind of cool to see that you mean in the beginning, sure, it's depressing. You see, okay, the first book 1,000 pages, the CBK 800 pages, the IO I think it's 1,200 pages. It's like you pack them all three together and you say, okay, I just want to go home. But if you can somehow visualize the pages you have read, and it's also okay, this is also important that because this is also something Susie mentioned, that you just read it from page from the first page, I mean from cover to cover, and do not in the beginning understand really what you've read. That would be a pitfall. But when you kind of visualize it with a card where you are standing with your reading, I think that's something good to see visually how you're progressing, and that you can see that you're progressing, because when learning for the CISSP and you have so many materials, it's kind of abstract, where you're not sure, okay, how far am I, how am I going with the book, and so on. And it's all, humans are visual types. So when you can see that when you see it with your eyes, you can better imagine it. And this is also a reason why Kanban boards were invented, that you can visualize tasks that are you can't really visualize normally, because it's programming something. And when you can visualize, for example, that some certain thing is developed, and you can see, okay, so many tasks were finished, and you kind of see some progress. And I think it's important to see how you're progressing, because else it's like, okay, I've read this book to the half, I kind of feel not progressing. And yeah, it's a small thing that you can see how you progressed and how far you are. But I think it's kind of important to see. For me, example, I did it, and also checked like every day when I've finished reading the chapter or so, and see, okay, cool, I now the card moved like 100 pages or so, and it's kind of cool to see the progress. I think this visualization might be helpful, but yeah, I can recommend it.
Brilliant. Excellent. Colvin's just piped up with another point saying book the exam in advance, which is really key for people to do. Really helps if you've got that target set in advance to look at that goal. Just helps keep you focused and on track, because you can easily be dissuaded, especially if you have a tough day studying. So yeah, no, it's a really good point there. Can't see any more questions.
I also think it's also, I mean, for some people it's quite important to set a specific date, and that you define quite specific your target, how you want to reach it. For example, I want to do the CISSP in exactly 3 months. So for example, on March the 10th, you want to do the CISSP exam. Because, for example, when you plan to learn only 10 pages per week, you only learn 10 pages per week. But if you increase that number to 100, you will learn 100 pages per week, because you've created a plan, you have a specific target you work towards, and normally you commit to it. I mean, sure, we have some days where we want to procrastinate, and yeah, it's for some of you it will be beneficial if you specify exactly when you want to do the exam, when you want to have finished reading the OSG, when you want to start with validating your knowledge, and yeah.
That's brilliant. I've just got to shoot off, but I'm going to just hand over to Colvin to do any roundup of any final questions and close the session. But thank you so much for your time again. It's been really, really helpful, I'm sure, to all the members.
Happy to help.
Well, okay. I see that there's no more questions. So yeah, once again, thank you very much from everyone at Certification Station, and thank you everybody for your questions. Keep learning, and see you in the channels shortly.